In this lesson, we're going to learn how to do a basic depth composite or a depth-based layering inside of After Effects using a technique to create a subtract blend mode. So here's where we're going to start off. I've created a 03 begin file, and you can just import the 3 EXR sequences, aliens with depth, regular render, and town with depth, and then turn off the linear light and then set them to straight interpolation. Okay, so I've just brought them together inside this main comp. Pretty simple. We have our aliens with an alpha and our town without an alpha. So obviously, right now, our composition is not working because half of our aliens need to be behind these buildings. But with basic alphas, we can't really do this. Now, each of these EXRs actually contains depth information. So let's select both of our layers and hit Control D. And now let's extract the depth out of them. Now, of course, this could be a separate pass that you've rendered out of Maya into a separate image sequence, but for our case, I used EXR. So to extract out the 3D data, let's go to Effect, Channel, actually 3D Channel, Extractor. Now let's left-click here for the channel info, and let's change the R, G, and B to Depth Remapped. And we need to make sure to leave alpha on Copy. So now let's go back to the town here. And let's copy this extractor here. And so now we have the town and the alien ship Z-depth. So as we kind of covered in the last lesson, we can find whichever layer needs to be on top by finding whichever layer is closer to the camera. Now these images are mapped so that objects closer to the camera are brighter. So we just need to subtract the town layer from the alien layer. So what happens is if we take this brighter color here and subtract this darker color of the alien, we get a positive value. So we know that this building needs to be in front. However, when we take this alien value here, which is brighter than the town or the building behind it, we know that this needs to be in front of the building behind it. So we just need to subtract these two images from each other. Now currently I have an alpha in the alien depth, so let's just copy this set channels here, which removes the depth, and paste it onto our alien layer. Because I really do not want any alpha information. I just need the aliens and then the black background. So to do a subtract layer, we can't do this using the normal modes. Now if you're using After Effects CS5 and later, you should have a subtract mode. However, we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. So to subtract one layer from another, we need to begin by creating two adjustment layers. So let's go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. And to this adjustment layer, we need to add a channel invert. So let's go up to our effect, right-click, go to our channel, and invert. So now this adjustment layer is inverting everything below it. So let's just hit Control D to duplicate this. So now we have two adjustment layers that are inverting our layers beneath them. So when you invert something twice, you pretty much turn it back into its normal setting. Now what we need to do now is we need to place the layer that is going to be subtracted in between these two adjustment layers. So we want to subtract our town or the background from our aliens. Let me just solo these 4 layers so we can see what's going on here. So currently the town and the aliens are working exactly the same as if we didn't have any adjustment layers. So what we need to do now is we need to change our town blend mode to add. And what this is going to do is it's now going to take the first adjustment layer and take an inverted add, which works out to subtraction, and then plug that into our second adjustment layer, which then inverts it again. Now, at this point, it is important that we have our project at 32 bits. So let's go to our project here and make sure that this project is set at 32 bits. If you're working on your own projects, you need to make sure to left-click this and change the depth to 32 bits per channel, because that's going to give us the most color fidelity and information. Okay? So now we have basically what looks like a cutout of our After Effects or of our depth. So now we can plug this color information into our alien layer as a map. So what we're taking is we're saying the alien layer minus the town is exactly what we see here. So let's jump to our Info tab just to take a look at some of these values. Now you'll notice that some of them are negative, and that means that the town is behind the alien. Or that the alien is behind the town. So we need to take these negative values and cut them out. Now, wherever there's a positive value, we need to keep the alien layer in these areas. So we can see that these areas here are positive, and they're surrounded by negative pixels. Now over here, if we can find this alien, we should be able to see the alien is actually still a negative pixel. So this is essentially the format you're going to use for any layering based off of depth. An adjustment layer on top, that is an adjustment invert, and then a adjustment layer beneath, which is also simply just doing a channel invert. And then in between them, we place the second term. So we want to subtract the town from the aliens. So we set that to a blend mode of add. And this surrounded by inverts will subtract the town from our aliens layer. And we get this image. So now what can we do? Well, we can select all 4 of these, hit Control-Shift-C to pre-comp them, or go up to, of course, composition, pre-comp. Or, I'm sorry, layer, pre-compose. And let's call this our alien matte. Okay. And now we can unsolo these, and we can set the track matte of our aliens with depth to the luma of the alien. And now we can see that our aliens are being cut out correctly, but they're not being layered completely. That's because we need to set every single positive value to something or to a value higher than 1. So let's go to our alien matte layer here, and let's add on a levels color corrector. Let's drop on a levels here, and now let's set the input to, or the input white to something very low. And as we drag this down, you can see our aliens getting popped back in. Now we don't want to set this to 0, but we want to set this just above 0, so something like 0.001. And now we can see that our aliens are correctly being composited with our building. So what's happening is After Effects is calculating which pixel is higher, the alien layer or the building layer. And then if the building layer is higher, it creates a black cutout, so it will cut our aliens out. And if the aliens are on top, of course, it just keeps the aliens. Okay, great. So now we've just come in here and created a basic depth-based compositing effect. So again, it's a little bit of work to get this effect, but as you can see, we can get some very complex layering that we would not be able to get by just rendering out an alpha channel. Okay, so now that we have this basic technique finished inside of After Effects, we can come in and take a look at how we can deal with different depths or different depth maps in the next lesson.